and got yourself a law degree. Congratulations, and welcome to the Happy Lawyer Project. I'm your host, Akoma Moronu. I created this show to help lawyers learn how to work in their gifts and live their passions. Together with my guest, we'll explore mindset, goal setting, productivity, and everything else you might need to find your happy. Today, I'm joined by Sabin, certified love coach, specializing in Gen X and Y singles, troop leader of love for the League of Adventurous Singles, speaker, podcaster, HuffPo blogger, story collector, and all-around blast. Today, we'll chat about what it takes to be an adventurous single and how to be happy where you are in life, which you all know is a topic I feel very passionately about. So let's dig in. Welcome. I'm so excited to introduce somebody really awesome today who is a coach on love. And here with us today is Kira.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. I just want to jump in. You can keep going.
Sorry. No. I appreciate it. So they've heard a little bit about you, but I'd love for you to just start by telling them a little bit how you got to where you are today.
I mean, do you want the interesting story or the real story? Because there's two.
Let's go with the real story because we like to keep things real.
That's right. So here's the real, mildly boring, but actually just kind of shows people that, let me just tell you a story. So one night in the early mid 2000s, I'm home on a Wednesday night and there's a show on TLC before it was completely ruined by reality shows. But it was a show called Date Patrol and it was short-lived. It was like 6 episodes. But basically, long story short is that they had a guy on. They put him on a fake date. He talked about being an Eagle Scout for like 12 minutes. You know, he wore bad jeans and white tennis shoes. And then over the next hour, they helped him work on his communication, his body language. They gave him just like a new outfit. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, I would totally go on a date with this guy. Because what I learned in that like moment was that, you know, he was a good guy. He just had no idea how to like translate that to other people. And I had like talked to a friend who'd become a life coach and she's like, you know, I think you'd be really good at that. And I'm like, I don't know, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And just in that moment, it was like I could help people do that. I could help people translate who they are better to find love. And 8 years later, here we are.
That's so amazing.
It's such a boring story, but the thing is
that's an amazing story.
I just think it's really important for people to realize that they don't have to be crazy passionate about something, you know, to take it on. They don't have to like know that this is their life's purpose. It's now my life's purpose. But in the beginning, it was just a little spark of like, hey, I think I could do that.
I think it's really interesting that you got the spark from a TV show because I feel like so many lawyers that I interview want to become lawyers because they watch too much Ally McBeal.
I love that Ally McBeal is the show that was your default there.
Well, that's the best part. It's like, no, exactly. It's like the least legal of all the shows.
Absolutely.
So no wonder we have so many disappointed lawyers.
Right.
So how do your clients find you? I mean, I think that a lot of people think they need help, but how do people know they need coaching?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, that's an ongoing conversation, right? As a life coach, you know, I would like to think that people find themselves in a jam and they know I need a lawyer. But when you do something like life coaching about love, people have no idea what they need, right? So probably half of my business is educating people on what I do. People find me, you know, at this point, I write for Huffington Post sometimes, as well as will guest post on other major blogs. I do have a podcast also on iTunes. And I just make content that's really shareable. You know, I think that, you know, I'm a big believer in there's an amazing marketing genius that I love called Seth Godin. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Right. I love Seth Godin. And how I first got introduced to him was through his book that was quite a while ago called The Purple Cow. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's just like, create something for people to talk about and they will talk about it. Like that's the easiest marketing. And that's what I try to do on a daily basis is that, you know, whether I'm writing a Facebook post or a blog post or doing a podcast, I try to create something that creates conversation and not like dramatic and crazy and, you know, but just kind of like things that people really want to talk about. And I think that's the best marketing ever.
I mean, you say that, but I've been to your website. Your website is fantastic. Like as soon as I was there, it was crazy in the best way possible. Like you just put it all out there.
Well, you know, and the other part of that is, you know, I've been doing this for a while. And it took me a long time to like really tailor my message and really tailor like who I wanted to work with and who I wanted to talk to. And, you know, surprisingly, I've created this website to very much either like have somebody say, oh my God, this is my lady, or this bitch is crazy, like one of the two. And that's okay, because the people who are of the second, like I usually don't want to work with them anyway. Surprisingly, it's funny, if you go to my website, and I'm sure that you're going to share that link, there's swearing all over it. Now, I'll probably swear on this podcast, but I don't swear that much in real life. It's just when I start talking about love and relationships, I get super passionate and I just start swearing, but it's also a little part of my brand.
Yeah, no, are you a Tony Robbins fan at all?
A little bit. I don't know. I don't follow him tons, but just because I'm busy working my own business.
Yeah, no, I get it. But his whole idea, he doesn't swear much in real life either, but part of his brand is swearing because he thinks it like disrupts people's pathways in their mind and like forces them to focus and think differently about an issue that they would have otherwise thought about in a singular way. And so I like the way you swear when you talk about things that are people feel like sad about or depressed about or romantically about, and then you drop this like F-bomb and it makes people kind of think about it in a new way.
Sure, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm glad I'm just kidding. I never thought about it that way. For me, it's a little bit of the women that I work with who are usually kind of, anywhere from like 28 to 40. Like that's how they talk with their friends, right?
Enough.
So, I mean, it's kind of like, I'm a very conversational writer. I'm a very conversational speaker that I want them to think of me as some, like how they would talk to a friend. When they read my article, it's like their friend wrote it. And I think that ties people to me.
So what do you think is the characteristic that's common amongst all your clients that really attracts them to you?
Oh, that's a long story. Like that's 1,000, but it's 1,000 things, but it's one thing. First of all, I get super, and I'm guessing like lawyers probably, I actually get quite a few lawyers, which is really funny, super independent women, right? Like that's one type of people that really respond to my message, which is the kind of women who can do everything on their own. And at some point just realize like, I don't want to do everything on my own. Like it's kind of lonely over here doing everything on my own. So just really like women who need to work on vulnerability, who need to let down the walls a little bit and let somebody in. That's definitely a major common theme among the people of Kira, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all that your message resonates with attorneys. I mean, it resonates. I've been happily married for 5 years, but I immediately saw your website and was like, can I go on a trip?
That's right. Absolutely.
And I think part of the reason that it really resonated with me is because I love the message of being happy wherever you are in your life. Like your life may not be perfect, but part of life is if you're not happy now, nothing about changing your circumstances is necessarily going to make you happy because you're not happy with who you are. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, that's like a proven scientific fact, right? Like that is, and it's kind of funny because it's amazing to me that that's a conversation that we're not having enough. It's kind of like, do this to be happy and do that, start your own business to be happy, lose weight to be happy. When really, like I have a really good friend who's a life coach. His name is Rob Mack. And he did an interview with me, and it's like proven that your situation or your circumstance is only 10% of your happiness. 10%.
Crazy to me. And I feel like every lawyer who's listening to this right now is just refusing to believe that number.
Right. Right. But I mean, if you really think about it, at the end of the day, most things that we do, we're going to continue showing up there, right? Yep. If we change jobs, it's still us. Let me tell you, as somebody who is about to celebrate 2 years in a relationship, which was a big accomplishment for me, Woo-hoo. I'm still here. All of my shit's still here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'm lucky to have a great partner to work through it with, and we work through his stuff too. But like we have to, and I've seen tons of articles about people dropping 100 pounds and they realize that their lack of confidence is still there. You know what I mean? We have to be really like honest with ourselves that even if we do change that job or move to a new place, that we are still going to be there. So let's dig into like what's going on with us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that was a conversation I had with my life coach about a year ago when she said something to the effect of, are you the type of person who could enjoy your dream life? And, I immediately was like, of course. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, absolutely not. I was just a complainer. I was always looking for what was wrong. I was always waiting for the better thing. There was no part of me that was settled in the present or even aware of the present. I was constantly living in the future. And like, even if I had my perfect life, I'd be so terrified that it was going to get taken away or like how to maintain it or that I wouldn't enjoy it at all. And nothing has changed, but I'm so much happier now than I would have been with my perfect life a year ago. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that's, and good for you. Like, good for you for kind of, creating that self-awareness around that. And, I think that's an amazing question your coach asked you, because so many times we want these things. Like my singles come to me and they're like, I want a relationship, and then they get a relationship and they're like, oh, this is hard. This is hard. I did not expect that this would be this hard, and I actually, one of the very first questions I ask my people is I say, why do you want a relationship? And I'll tell you, a lot of people can't even answer that question. They just assume it's the next step. They just assume it's what they're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, if you are getting into a relationship because you think it's going to bring you happiness or you think it's going to be easy, make your life easier, I'm like, actually, it's proven that being a single woman is way easier than being in a relationship. But if it's because you want to learn more about yourself, it's because you want to like really dig in and share a life with somebody and a healthy life, well, then I can help you do that. But let's get real on what that is and, and what that's going to mean and the changes you're going to have to make. And that's kind of what, my brand's called League of Adventurous Singles. And I say love is an adventure, dive in. And, people want to think of the romantic version of that, right? Like love is an adventure, like let's go travel to Italy. That's the adventure. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Like having those tough conversations is an adventure. Having, working through problems with somebody is an adventure. All of it is going to make you uncomfortable. So the more and more that you can get used to being uncomfortable, the easier that's going to get in your relationship.
All of that is like gold. I couldn't agree more. So you've been doing this for a while now. How have you seen your business change or the way people view relationships change? Because I feel like there's always this talk about how, men today are so different and women are too independent and all this kind of noise around how relationships are changing. Do you feel like any of that is true, or what are you seeing in the work that you do?
I mean, yes and no. Like, has technology changed our conversation? Absolutely. The fact that texting, I just read an article this morning about texting is like junk food. It's like the McDonald's of communication, which I could not agree more with. But just, now that we're kind of shopping for our mate online, through online dating, the fact that we start trying to form relationships through texting, which is a really shitty way to communicate, all of these things are changing the way that we date. But I mean, the greatest thing for me, like, I think it's amazing to be a woman in 2016,
Amen.
Right. Like, I think that, I could have never had this business 20, 30 years ago. I would have had to fight tooth and nail to get it. So much has changed. That's wonderful. But I think we've also lost our footing, just meaning both genders have, nobody really knows where they stand or who's supposed to do what. Or I absolutely am a strong feminist, but I'm also coach enough men to know it's hard out there for them too. It's hard to know, what people are expecting, because one person wants you to open the door and the next person like tells you you're a jerk if you do it. They don't know what they're doing either. So I just think that the greatest and most exciting thing about dating and relationships in 2016, although we're not having the conversation, that's the conversation I'm trying to start, is how we need to get self-aware and real about what we need, and we need to communicate it. We owe that to our foremothers. We owe that to our mothers and our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers who didn't get to speak up in their relationships.
How do you advocate for people to communicate that type of thing? Because I totally agree with you. And I think that is part of the issue. And it's kind of an issue that my husband and I had kind of going into our marriage, is that we had such different ideas of what a marriage would look like. Because he came from a home with two working parents, and I grew up overseas with a more traditional kind of male-female role model. Right. And we never had those conversations because it never occurred to us that we were supposed to. And in a very weird turn of events, I've ended up being the breadwinner. And for a portion of our marriage, he was at home with the kids, which, our parents be damned. But so how do you encourage kind of the people you work with to have those conversations, and when should they be having them?
I mean, first of all, one of the reasons I love to work with singles versus people in relationships is they say that a lot of times couples go about 5 to 6 years too long before they should get into therapy. I kind of I know, right? Scary. But I love the thought that, there's things that I can do with people while they're single that are hopefully going to possibly stop that, right? That there's things that they can learn about themselves and learn about relationships that can help them start off on a better foot. So to me, first of all, I hate talking about genders as in it drives me crazy. I'm writing an article right now called Stop Listening to Dating Advice, because what I really do is, because we say all the time, oh, men do this and then women do that. No, not at all. My boyfriend is he is 17 times more sensitive than I am. He has cried way more in our relationship.
So does my husband.
Right. And the thing is we are downgrading them as who they are when we just say, well, men do this. And this is what women do. That's not true. We do, us, I do me and he does him. And it's my job to know what I do and to be able to teach that person how to treat me. And it's his job to do the same for me. And that's what I really do with people is we get really real on who we are as people, kind of where we're a little messed up, and then how to communicate that to a person to build a relationship. I don't believe in finding love. I don't believe in, it's not hiding anywhere. You're not playing hide and seek with love or waiting for the love gods to make you worthy. We find another super flawed human being and we build a relationship. And it starts with the tough conversations. It starts with, making sure you can work through things. I love the fact that you and your husband had to get real with each other. Wow, we both witnessed 2 very different marriages or relationships and kind of didn't know we were supposed to have this conversation.
I mean, I think we're both very lucky because both our parents are still together, which I think is quite rare nowadays. And so we kind of have also seen how to make a marriage work. And we got married now, looking back on it, very young. At the time, we thought we were, really grown up at 25 and 26. But it's worked out, so I have no complaints. But I definitely wish that I had spent more time figuring all this stuff out before I added another and then 2 more tiny people into the equation. But what do you think is kind of a common misperception that people have about themselves that impacts their relationships?
Oh my God, everything. Seriously.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
well, that's an easy fix.
No, but I mean, it's kind of funny because just last night I was on a group call with a class and, somebody was talking about online dating and this profile. And I was like, let me tell you this. Most people do not have the self-awareness to even put truth down in a profile because, they may actually think that they are one thing versus who they actually are. We have to get in the presence with somebody. We have to start spending time with them, that we have to do things with them and really fully understand who they are, not who they say they are. It's ludicrous to me that we are dating in our society is let's go sit and talk to each other and tell each other about ourselves. Let me tell you, that's a beautiful thought. Except that most people don't have the self-awareness to really do that. So, I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things that people, and especially with women and strong women, what I see is at any given moment, they can drop 10 things about themselves that are awesome. But secretly, they're questioning if they're lovable. And I'm like, something's not working here, and, it's great that you've built up your career. It's great that, but as soon as they get into a relationship or get into a situation with a guy, they sell their soul. They don't stand up. They don't speak up for who they are. That's what we work on. Did that answer your question? I don't even remember what you asked me.
Yes, no, that did answer my question. I think that's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about kind of how you have to have some self-awareness to put out into the world, a good profile that's going to attract the right people. And I feel like people probably go wrong in all sorts of ways, whether it's overestimating or underestimating. But then they're attracting the totally wrong people.
Well, and people are always like, this is what I want.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't care what you want. What do you need? What do you actually need as a person? Because that is what we have to figure out. That's what I love to have conversations with or so I have a process called the owner's manual. And it's a 10-step process where we actually talk about, how you learn to love. It's awesome that you've already told us a story about what was role model to you. That's what love looked like to you. Now, your husband was role modeled something completely different, but we all assumed that everybody else learned to love the same way that we did. But the thing is that they haven't. So it's our job to kind of like know ourselves well enough to be able to say, this is what I need, or, how did you learn to love? Okay, how do we meet in the middle there? To have those tough conversations. We work on everything from healthy boundaries to trust to communication, really like digging in a little bit to your inner critic and confidence. But I don't think in 2016, we all want these like great evolved relationships, right? Where like the person we're with is our best friend and they're a co-parent and they're the rock and they're the,
Yeah.
And that doesn't exist. What exists are two people who come together and work together to build something great. Like that's what exists. We can't do that without our own self-knowledge.
I mean, even that's pretty beautiful. The idea that that could exist is amazing, at least to me, but I'm a hopeless romantic.
Right. I mean, and the thing is that here, I'm going to tell you, like, everybody's going to be like, this is the worst interview ever. She's so mean.
No.
The truth is that right now, and this is not, the exciting part about this is this is not a number that has to stay. It's not a number we have to fit into, but right now only about 10% or a little bit higher of relationships move on from the obsessive love phase, which is kind of that whole like honeymoon period or, kind of where the spark and the chemistry really leads in the beginning to a true love phase. 10%. That's it.
Wow.
Like, that's not a lot. And the thing is like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing because we don't have to try to fit into that 10%. But I think as a society, we have to have bigger conversations to grow that 10%. I mean, we already see divorces are, between 50 and 60% at this point, so that means also that there's about 30% that are not in happy marriages. So I think that more than ever, we have to like start attaching our brains because we keep thinking of love and we keep thinking of relationships as like this unicorn fairy dust that just happens to us. And once it happens to us, it's all going to work out. And that's just not true. What's true is that we have somebody who's going to sit across from you and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to suck sometimes. And sometimes you're going to, not like them very much. But the more and more that you can, have self-awareness, ask for what you need, and then really get some relationship skills. Those are built, by the way, our relationship skills. Most of those are not just handed or just born with relationship skills. We have to learn them. The more and more you can do that, actually the bigger success rate you're going to have. Like it's not like I just hope this works out. Like you can actually do things to make sure that, your relationship is strong, is better.
There's just so much there that I want to talk about and we don't have time to go into all of it. Because I also really want to touch on the travel component to your whole business. And because I got married in Costa Rica and I saw that you're doing a lot of stuff in Costa Rica in the upcoming year. So I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that and why you think travel is an important part of life and self-discovery and all that kind of fun stuff.
Absolutely. So my boyfriend and I and our dog Rex are going to be moving to Costa Rica for at least 3 months and possibly up to a year or more. We're kind of testing it out and seeing, but the idea was we start something called League of Adventurous Singles Travel, and we're bringing single women to us so that they can feel comfortable traveling in a country that maybe they don't know the language or they're not sure if it's safe, because traveling as a single woman can be scary. It can be. I traveled tons as a single woman and I'm, and I never went like truly, truly scary places, but it can be overwhelming. And if you're not used to it, but I think it's the most wonderful thing as a person that we can do. I think that we learn so much about not only the world, we open our eyes and our minds, but we learn so much about ourselves when we're put into those kind of situations where we have to like challenge ourselves. I think that we do a lot in real life where we don't challenge ourselves very much, right? We kind of get in routines. We kind of do the same things over and over, or the way that we're challenging ourselves are just ways that we know that we can succeed. But we only grow when we challenge ourselves and sometimes we're going to fail and sometimes we're not. But, that's how we move forward. That's how we become a better person. I just think that travel just really encompasses so many things for especially single women it's a confidence builder. I remember I worked on cruise ships for 5 years, and that's kind of where my love for travel started. I'm from a small town of 5,000 in Wisconsin. So we were not travel people. Like the most we ever did was we took a road trip to Disney World where my sister and I were in the back seat with a freezer between us so that we wouldn't fight. Like that was traveling for the Sabin family growing up. but I worked on cruise ships on a whim. And it changed my life. And I can't even tell you the amount of times I've walked in a new place around the world saying to myself, you're okay. You're okay. Or like, I can do this. I can do this. Kind of like doing mantras before I knew they were even mantras, because I would be so nervous and so out of my comfort zone. But the person that I became in those moments of realizing I could do this, or I could, go new places, or I could make new friends, or I could try new things and succeed. I mean, I'm a different person because of that experience.
I love to travel. And I think that travel does have this kind of magical effect on your person. And I think that everybody should be encouraged to do it more. We try to travel a lot as a family, and we think that's an important part of raising our own kids and turning them into good citizens of the planet. So I think that's great that you've kind of incorporated that into what you're doing. So for your programs in Costa Rica, how long do you try and encourage people to come out there for in order to kind of get the full benefit of your services?
Well, we're just asking people to come for a week. And then, if for some reason somebody had a couple weeks and they wanted to come, we would create a trip for them to do that also. But I mean, I just think, unfortunately, I think we work too much in this country, and most people taking off a week is hard. So, or is about what they can take off. So that's why we've built trips around a week. But that's enough to, where'd you get married in Costa Rica, if I can ask?
We got married in Manuel Antonio.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I have been 3 times in the last year.
Oh,
we're a little obsessed with Costa Rica because
so are we.
Yeah, because I not only love the ocean, I'm a huge ocean person, but I love the wildlife. Like, there is such like a child in me that comes out every time I see a monkey hanging in the trees, or I am a sloth freak. Like whenever I see a sloth, like I cried like virtually the first time I saw them. Not like Kristen Bell.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, and I'm a Kristen Bell fan, but and when I found out that she also liked sloths, I was like, oh, we are the kindred spirits that I thought we would be. But yeah, no, I was like, this is so amazing. But I love the wildlife, and I love just I love to be laid back. I love that, I just think that a lot of places in the world kind of have a better concept of relaxation than we do. And I think it's important for us just to let go for a week, and just to not have as tight of a schedule, and to just challenge ourselves, but just enjoy. And I think that Costa Rica is a perfect place to do that.
Absolutely. And I think there's definitely something about getting away that can make you really open to self-discovery when you're outside of your element. Sometimes it's hard when you're in your environment to think differently about yourself and your life. But being in a place like Costa Rica, how could you not?
Right. And you get to reinvent yourself for a week, right? Like, I always say that, whether it's at a retreat or whether it's, different programs I've run through the years is, who do you want to be this week? Because nobody here knows you. So who do you want to be this week? Like, who have you always kind of hoped that you would be maybe a little bit lighter or a little less stressed or a little happy? Be that person, because nobody knows the difference. And, I think it's a great, travel allows us to do that.
Well, I hope that you have encouraged more people to travel, and hopefully more people to come and visit your various sites and social media platforms. What's the best place for listeners to find you?
LeagueofAdventurousSingles.com. That's where I'm hanging out. That's where there's tons of blog posts. I have a podcast there. I have my upcoming trips in 2017. We're going to definitely be in Costa Rica. And I do an awesome trip with a couple other life coaches in Mexico. And then I think we're going to do Italy. So I'm going back to a favorite spot that I did a retreat a couple years ago.
Amazing. We will put all of that in the show notes for everybody so they can get links to that on the website. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
I'm so excited to be here. I love to talk about love.
Well, it was fun to talk. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining me for the Happy Lawyer Project podcast. Please head over to my website, www.thehappylawyerproject.com, for more information from today's show. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave me your thoughts on the show. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or follow me on Instagram. If you've enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to head over to iTunes to subscribe and review the show. As you know, each rating helps more listeners find the show and helps me get awesome guests on here for you guys. If there's anyone you'd like me to have on the show, or if you'd like to be on the show, head over to my website and let me know, or send me an email at akoma, OKEOMA, @thehappylawyerproject.com. A special thanks to everyone who's left a review, sent me an email, or reached out to me in any way. I appreciate you. Thank you again for spending this time with me, and if you would like to learn more about working in your gift and living your passion, head over to the website for a free gift. Until next time, bye!